So today on the bench, I have a freebie. So, Senesys, I think that's how it's pronounced. Senasys, which owns Isotip, contacted me. It sent me an email and said apparently they've enjoyed watching my videos. And they wanted to know if I wanted to try out one of their cordless soldering irons. They would just send it to me for free, no strings attached. I said, sure. And honestly, I don't think I've ever really used cordless soldering iron because, to me, yeah, I'm used to actually here at the bench, I'm used to using a big several $1,000 multi-process machine. But even say out in the field, I'm used to being plugged into a wall, even if it's through an extension cord. But because I always just kind of figured cordless soldering iron is going to mean low performance. Now don't get me wrong, I don't have anything wrong with cordless tools. I've got a garage full of cordless tools. But yeah, when it came to soldering irons, I was always very hesitant. I think I actually had one of those cheap junk Weller things one time that I think it held, or don't even take my word on that. It may not have been a Weller. It could have been one of those companies that makes the cordless torches. Was it Benzomatic? But whoever in the hell made that thing, it took like 2 AA batteries. Shit, I tried that thing and it went straight into the trash can. But I figured I'd give this one a try. This is a commercial unit, and actually before I replied to their email, I thought, I'll look it up online, because like Banggood recently contacted me. I know some other YouTube members, like Buddy over at the Radio Shop, Scott, the Def Palm. Some of those guys signed up with Banggood. And it's really not a signing up thing, it's just you agreed to receive free shit. They sent me the same email, and I really didn't need a bunch. I've already got good test equipment, everything that I need, higher quality. I really didn't need any cheap Chinese stuff. So that's why I didn't even reply to their email. I figured I'll let those guys handle that. But like I say, Isotip, USA company, made in the USA. Pretty sure it's made in the USA. I actually saw that somewhere. Grab the soldering iron itself. Yes, made in the USA. But, so they sent it. So what do you get? Well, for starters, it actually has a very good selection of tips. Reposition the camera here slightly. Maybe turn this light off. So they actually have a fairly good assortment of tips. It comes with 2 tips, owner's manual, and they also send some, like a little sales flyer with it. So they actually have 3 different models. They sent it's the lowest model, which is fine. They're all pretty much the same, other than this one charges a lot faster, and this one's a high-capacity iron. Now, they state for this iron up to 125 solder joints per charge during continuous use. Well, we're going to try that out. The only difference between the Quick Change, which is the 7700 model, and the 60 Pro Charge, which is the 7800 model, is this one charges in an hour. This one takes 3.5 to 4 hours for a full charge from basically dead batteries. And then they have their Power Pro, the 7904, which is still has a high charge time, 3.5 to 4 hours, but this one is good for 30 minutes of continuous use. So basically, push the button down and it'll stay hot for 30 minutes. So, it's good for over 200 solder joints. But yeah, so there's a list of the tips that comes with it, and I actually circled, these are the 2 tips that actually come with this kit. Yeah, they sell some propane stuff, and they X'd out, so I'm assuming they don't sell this stuff anymore, anything with an X through it. It looked like they hadn't. I'd never even seen one of these. A cordless file and sander, and actually a corded version. But yeah, so they still have solder. They still have other torches and whatnot. Send a little letter, just a general letter, I guess, that goes out with all of these things. Dear smart human. But so let's actually take a look at the unit. So what do you get? Actually, let me unplug the charger. So now these come. It actually did turn on. It had some charge to it, but they tell you, like anything cordless, you should always fully charge it before using it. So that's actually what I did. I fully charged it. I tried a couple solder joints. Honestly, I was impressed. Thing's got some good heat capacity. Now, as far as temperature, This is not a temperature-controlled soldering iron. It's just basically battery connections, a piece of resistance wire, ceramic insulator, so this is isolated, okay? So there is no connection between this tip and the actual elements here. It is ceramically insulated. But then the actual, the outer wrap is your heating, the actual heating element there. Has a built-in light. Feels fine in the hand, the button works, and it actually has a little lock here. So you can see it says lock. Actually, it only turns on from like right about there to about there. You can press it down anywhere else around, it's locked. You can't, which is, you're supposed to put it all over the place. Anytime not in use, put in lock position. Comes with the little charging cradle. It just drops in, just has two little contact fingers down there. They just sit. It's no socket or anything. It's just those two terminals just drop down in there and just sit on top of those two terminals. I kind of like it like that. Just the design-wise, I'm a make it simple stupid person. Don't get me wrong, I love high-tech shit, but a lot of times when it comes to stuff like tools, make it simple stupid. the least amount of flashy jazz you can get away with and still have a good functioning product is better in my book. Now after I actually get done, we're going to do some test soldering with this. After I actually get done that, I want to tear these apart because I don't know what's in here. The base has to have a transformer because it does have some weight. I'm not sure what they use for a charging circuit though, so we'll actually see. Now I did, because I received this yesterday, and I let it charge overnight. Now, there's one thing I don't want to say I'm concerned about, but it kind of makes me raise an eyebrow. Okay, they tell you I can even show you here in the instruction manual. Right here. Recommendations to, answers of frequently asked questions. You can leave the ISO tip in its charging stand all the time when not in use. It will never overcharge. They even highlighted that, or put it in bold. Never overcharge. To save electricity, the charger can be unplugged if long periods of time of non-use are expected. If the soldering iron is left in the stand and the recharging stand is disconnected and turned off, the iron will discharge. So that kind of tells me that there's not much of a charging circuit to it. Because what that says right there means, sitting like that, the battery's now discharging. Well, if that's got even a halfway designed charging circuit in there, there should at least be a diode, a directional diode, because this, to prevent backflow of current, so it doesn't drain. So yeah, I'm not really sure what the heck's up with that. But like I say, we'll see once I get it torn apart. But yeah, the basic instructions, and again, they show you the tips. So how does it work? And actually, the tip temperature on this thing, they rate at, I think it's 900 degrees. It's somewhere here. Yes, it is here somewhere. I know I read it. Yep. Ah, there it is. The ISO tip button is pressed. The tip heats to over 900 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, that's one thing, actually, you're going to need to keep in mind when using something like this. Now, when I'm using like my paste soldering irons, these are temperature controlled. That's why there's multiple wires. This is actually, it has a DIN plug on the end of it. It needs, and like your Hakos and a lot of your other good high-end soldering stations that are meant for bench use, they're temperature controlled. This thing has a very, very little temperature swing. Once it gets up to its, whatever you set the tip temperature to, it's very consistent. It holds that temperature very well. Something like this, or even your standard plug-in-the-wall soldering iron. So, if you have something that looks like this, but it just plugs straight into the wall, odds are it's not temperature controlled. Now, they do make some of them. Weller has some that have a thermomagnetic switch assembly in there that actually, the little bimetal strip, as it heats up, it opens and closes. But yeah, for the most part, most of your just plug into the wall hand soldering irons, those aren't temperature controlled either. The tip gets to whatever it gets to. There's nothing you can do about it. Other than, in the case of one of those, you could plug it into a variac to turn the voltage down. But that's just something to keep in mind. The tip's going to get hot, so if you're working on fragile circuit traces, if you leave the tip on there too long, you could possibly do some damage to it. It's possible. But you can see this tip does have some solder on it. So like I say, I did try it. I only did a couple little quick solder joints just to give it a try. So it hasn't had hardly any use, maybe a dozen solder connections. And I figured, well, we're going to charge it, let it sit overnight. But like I say, it gets warm. This one, I checked this thing this morning, it wasn't hot. Don't get me wrong. We're not talking ouch hot, but it was warm. So that almost tells me, I mean, like I say, the manual tells you you do not have to unplug this and take the soldering iron out. You can leave it in here all the time. It will never overcharge. Well, batteries and chargers tend to get warm when they're charging. This thing was plugged in for like 12 hours. After 12 hours, there should be no more charging. There might be a trickle charge, to maintain the battery topped off. But, yeah, it was warm. So, yeah, like I say, we'll see once I tear into this thing what they actually have for a charging circuit. But, so what do I want to do to test this? Actually, let me change the tip. I don't know, that one might... let's try the small one, actually. So this is the other tip they have. So this one's actually it's a round tip. You see it has a flat on one side. And then this other one's more just a conical. So we'll give this one a try. Now, actually probably what I'm going to do is I'm probably never really going to use that. And I'm probably going to leave this on the bench and actually use this. Because this thing does heat up fairly fast. And for when I just need to do a couple solder connections, man, this thing would be perfect. I don't need to worry about turning the big soldering machine on. Do I have the tip temperature set right? I just grab this, spin the button, push, it's ready to go. And it's mobile. That's the big advantage of something cordless is I can use this standing in the middle of a cornfield. But something it says in the instructions, so let me grab a screwdriver here. So you can install the tips two different ways. You can put the tips here. You push the little spring contacts, push it down in, and it's just spring tensions holding them in there. But if you want to permanently install these tips, apparently all you have to do is take out these two screws, and just remove those little copper strips. Like I say, I'm probably just going to leave that small tip in there. You install the tip now, and then just tighten. And actually, I don't know if you can see down in there, but you can see the leads of the. Can I get the light right? But the leads actually. So yeah, it's just you can clamp down with the screws. I think personally, I'm going to prefer that because, like I say, I'm not going to be changing. This is not going to be the main thing I'm working on radios with. Like I say, for a quick, man, I need a just quick bodge solder connection here on something, or especially something if it's away from the bench. This will be fantastic. So, and actually, I think this will make. Well, I don't think. I know this is going to make a much better connection electrically than the spring clips will. Now, there's nothing wrong with them, but and actually, they do have a neat little storage divot right there in the top, and I'll just leave them in there. But the spring clips, that's still just friction. The screws, I've got those things bitten down on those leads, so you can see it ain't coming out. So I'd actually much prefer using it like that. Now that's going to be personal preference. So move the chart. Actually, just move the box, the charging stand out of the way, and I want to show you the torture test that I've designed for this. So they said it'll do 125 solder connections, or up to 125. I want to see just how many it'll do. So we've got some perf board. And if you notice, running down both sides of it, there are a shitload of resistors. So actually I've got marked off with lines here of 10. So there's 10, 20, 30, 40, 56. So that's 112 solder connections per each side of the board. We've already got them installed, cleaned the board, bent the leads over. So I think now, I've never tried, because I don't do video editing. I edit videos together. I may have several chunks of a video when I make videos for YouTube that I edit together, but I've never done anything fancy. I've never even done text on a video, or like an overtype. So I know you can speed videos up, so what I'm going to do is I want to stop the video here. I don't know if I can figure out how to do it. What I want to do is stop the video here, and I want to make a separate video clip. I'll edit it together. But what I want to do is speed up this part of it, because this, honestly, it's going to take a while. It's probably around 100 and something solder connections. At the least, I'm assuming this thing will make. So it's going to take a little bit of time. But yeah, so what I want to do is I'll stop the video. I'll make that a separate clip, and what I want to do is then do that. I'll increase. When you're watching it on the video, it'll be at like 10 times speed. So, or whatever. I'll have to play with it and see what looks best. But yeah, something like 5-10 times speed. So it'll be in fast forward mode. That way you don't have to sit here and suffer for however long it takes me to solder as many possible connections as I can get of the possible. When I say there's 112, so actually there's 224 solder connections on here, because there's 112 resistors in total between down that edge and this edge of the board. So let me get at it. Like I say, I'll pause or stop the video, and hopefully I can fast forward. If not, if you continue watching this and it's still in regular speed, just fast forward. Just click forward to wherever I'm back to actually talking. When you see me stop soldering, it's probably died. Yeah, like I said, I've got a video. I just recently got a new laptop computer after, God, almost 10 years on my old antique. It has some video software editing stuff on there, but yeah, it's been so long since I did anything like that. I'm gonna have to figure out how to use the damn video program. So let me stop it, and I'll start it back up as a separate clip. Okay, now we're back now. I spun the camera around sideways so it's not in my way. I'm going to be using Urson multi-core solder, one of my favorite brands of solder. This is a very, very, very cheap perf board from China. As you can see, well, you probably can't see it the angle I have the camera right now, but it is a very flimsy, flexy board. Cheap copper. So I did burnish the board with a fiberglass brush, and I did run a line of my homebrew liquid rosin flux down that side of the board there. So hopefully it'll go high speed from here on. So let me get to soldering. Actually, let me just hold it full time here, and we'll see exactly how long. Well, I see smoke already. The element heating up. Okay, let me get it actually cleaned off there. Get it tinned really good for the first time. Okay, so brand new tip, just tinned. Let's get to soldering. Well, I got a hell of a lot more solder connections than I thought I was supposed to. That's a good thing. What did I say? I said, what, 125? Wherever the hell it was. Actually, I think it was in the brochure. Yeah, grab the brochure again. It said 125. Up to 125 solder joints per charge during continuous use. Well, and that's pretty much what I was doing. I guess that's what they mean by continuous use. You're basically just keep soldering. Yeah, up to 125? I don't know, guys. I think I do believe you exceeded that, because what did I say? 10, 20, 30, 40, 56. So 56 resistors per side. 56 times 2. 112, so there's 112 solder connections here, and that means there's 112 solder connections over there, so that's 224. 224 solder connections is one shy of twice as many or one shy of 100 more than advertised, and it's still got juice left. It's not like it was petering out at the end there. It was still going strong. So, hell, I don't know. Battery's warm. It's about as warm actually as when I pulled this thing out of the charger this morning, except most of the heat was actually down here towards the base, or actually the charger stand. I mean, the top was warm, but there was more heat down here. Actually, I'd say the top is actually very well isolated. I mean, that tip's been on the whole time. Now, granted, a lot of airspace there for the wires or the leads to cool down. It is ceramically insulated, but yeah, actually, hell, even the screws here, you can see I'm touching it. I just got done soldering with it, but yeah, that actually works really damn well. I think I may actually take this tip out. I'd said I think I might want that one. Actually, after doing all of these solder joints, I don't know, I might like this one a little bit better. I need to play with it. And that's one thing I've noticed over the years. When I get a new solder, you got to realize, I make probably tens of thousands of solder joints a year. So I have this iron in my hand most of the year. This is the one I'm using here at the bench. Or actually, even at other benches, I have the same paste systems, but this is the tip that I prefer to use for the majority of my soldering. Now, I have lots of tips, don't get me wrong. I'll reach over and grab just the soldering iron tip stand. There's just one of my little racks for soldering iron tips, from little teeny tiny ones, to long needle point ones, to flow soldering ones, chisel styles, just all different kinds here. But this is the one I use the most. So I'm actually very efficient using this thing. I know how to hold it, especially if the tip's actually a little bit too small for the soldering job I'm doing. I'm just familiar with using this. It's kind of like when I originally switched from using a Hako soldering station to using the paste. I didn't like the tip. I was like, man, it didn't feel right. The bevel was a little bit different. And once I got used to this tip, at some point in time I tried that Hako again and I didn't like it. Yeah, it's just because I had gotten used to using this tip. Using that's going to be the same way. Actually, the more solder joints, as I went along, I found that, holding it, if I placed the tip kind of down into the holes where the lead comes through, I was actually getting a lot better solder connection. It seemed to flow a lot better. But yeah, I think that tip's actually a little bit small for the stuff I'm doing here. This one would probably be better, and I may actually buy some of these other tips. Like I say, I had actually circled them in this book. So that one is the one that's in the iron, and then that one is this one. Now, those are apparently only standard tips. They also have long life tips. These are nickel plated to withstand a long period. Well, what the hell are these? They look like maybe they're just tin plated, but it looks nickel plated. But heat up time is 20% longer than a standard tip. Heat up time's longer, so that means it's probably the wall's also thicker. So that'll actually have a little bit of better thermal reserve. I might actually get some of those. And they have high efficiency tips. Heat up faster to provide 20% more soldering time than standard tip. Tips reach a temperature of approximately 900 degrees. Yeah, I may get... the hell is this? Tube sealer. I don't know. I guess that's hollow. I'll have to go online and see. But yeah, I think I'll probably get a few extra tips. The extended micro, actually, that would be handy in some applications. I'll probably pick up some of those. The big, fat, wide chisel. Actually, I'll probably get all three of those. I might get a few more of that. Like I said, that's the one I wasn't sure. I thought I might like that one better. I'm just thinking this one's almost one to compromise. Maybe that one. Actually, I think that's the one I want right there. I like a bevel. I don't like the chisel points where it's angled on both sides. So, this is a conical, basically, and then it's just got one little flat on it, which is fine. But this one's a little bit fat at the end. I think this one's a little bit better. I kind of like that tip design a little bit better. So, yeah, I think I'll get I'll probably get a pack of them. But yeah, this thing's going to be on the bench. I'm going to use it. Like I say, I actually like it. So there you go. There's whatever I just said. 224 solder connections in however long that took. So what? 99 more than they advertised, and it's still got juice. It's not dead. It was still soldering, humming along just fine. So hell, I don't know how many more that thing will do. I really don't feel like restuffing even more. I've proved that it does what it says it'll do. Actually, it'll do a hell of a lot more than it says it'll do. That's a good thing. So I'd give it, so far, 2 thumbs up. Ergonomics, it felt fine. Make it simple, stupid, design-wise, at least externally. Ergonomically, it feels fine. So yeah, I give it a thumbs up for that. Practical use, works fine. Like I say, the one thing always scared me away from cordless soldering irons was I figured they wouldn't have much thermal reserve. It's just going to be one of those, you stick it on there and then you're going to be trying to feed solder into it and waiting for it to heat back up again. I'll try and add a little bit more. Yeah, this thing just seemed to feed just fine, actually. So, now that that part's done, let's tear the damn thing apart. We got the charging base. So let me take those 2 little guys out of there, those tips, or clips, before they get lost. Let's actually tear this damn thing apart and see what the hell's inside of it. I'm assuming in this there's probably just a battery and a switch, of course. Because as much capacity as that thing has, and it's a nickel cadmium battery. That's the only downfall, honestly. I forgot to mention that. Well, I don't want to say it's a downfall, but I think that's something they can improve on. I did notice all of these have nickel cadmium batteries. NiCad. Really? I mean, isn't that kind of like old school? I mean, nickel metal hydride's kind of the standard in the industry nowadays for cordless anything, and lithium technology is actually replacing that, but of course lithium batteries cost a lot more. But yeah, I'd actually like to see a nickel metal hydride battery in here. Man, I can't even imagine how, if this thing does that many solder joints, and like I said, I didn't reach its limit. I think that thing could do another 200 joints for all I know. But yeah, man, could you just imagine how many solder connections you could get out of this thing with nickel metal hydride? The other thing that I like about nickel metal hydride over NiCad is NiCad really seems to ramp off. You start off with a really big charge. Actually, it's kind of, they simulate an alkaline battery very well, and they just slowly drop off. So yeah, you're going to get to a point, but you don't get to use all of your charge, because once it gets to a point, whatever it is, a drill, a saw, soldering iron in this case, it gets to a point it's just not working well, where the nickel metal hydrides seem to hold their charge a lot longer. I'm not going to say they avalanche like a lithium ion does, but they hold that high charge level for a lot longer, and then it fairly rapidly drops off. Lithium ions, they just work 1 second and they don't the next. A lot of times you'll be doing something, and it's dead. I mean, granted, there's some voltage there, don't get me wrong, but yeah, there's not much to it. So, do I need to take this? Well, I don't think it gets much simpler than that. So it looks like there's 2, actually I can even see it says there, through the shrink wrap. I don't know if you can see that. Get the camera in and down here. I can actually see through this wrapper the writing that's actually on the battery inside this tubing. It says NiCad 1300 milliamp hour 1.2 volts. So there's 2 of them, so 2.4 volts. Actually, you just turn a meter on here. We'll just see what the voltage is actually at right now. Another test lead. Where is the other end? Actually, let's see. That one goes... Oh, okay. Well, that's what I'll do. I'll just clamp. Actually, I'd need to clamp. Let me grab some mini grabbers. Easier to See what the unloaded voltage is. Okay. Battery died on me. Not this battery. Not the one down here. The camera. I had to recharge. So I'm back. Actually, I just plugged in a USB cable. But, so actually, what do we got here? Oh, it wouldn't be that. Down to the battery. Now, this is after doing all those solder connections. So I just have it, one lead to the common there, drops down, then I'm the other end of the terminal here. And we have, you probably can't see that. The utility system display invert. Let me turn this light off here. There we go, that's better. Let me get my lead back on now. So 2.556 volts. Let me get it stuck back on there again. And if I push it down with the iron heating up, so it's getting hot right now, it's 2.233765. So you can see it's dropping, which is what a battery does. It just slowly drops. Like I say, the NiCads tend to do that over a lot longer ramp. So that looks like to be pretty much all that's inside of this thing, though, is just a battery. And what do we got here? It must be caution. Oh, replace fuse with 28 gauge 1 5/8 inch long tin copper. Oh, so okay, there's actually a fuse. That's it, right there. So they're just using basically like a fuse link. They're just using it's just a piece of wire. That's all it is. Like it says, 28 gauge 1 5/8 long tinned copper wire. So that's what they're using for a fuse in there. That's perfectly fine. So yeah, there's nothing here really. There's a light bulb. There's the heating element, the clamping blocks, switch contact. You can't get much more reliable than that, actually. Just a springy metal strip that goes down and touches the screw head. Other end, just a terminal wire. I mean, that's, yeah, there's to the hand piece, there's really nothing here to speak of. So as far as bulletproof in design, at least this part of it, I'd say, yeah, it doesn't get much more bulletproof than that. Let me get these 3 screws back in. Let's tear apart this charging base and see what we got. Oh, and it is, like I say, very nice to see. I try to support American companies that come into focus here. Made in the USA, and is CE certified, apparently. And like I said, everywhere you look, a button in the lock position, yeah, that way you can't accidentally push it, so spin it around. The button doesn't do anything. Actually, another thing I bet you could do to extend the battery life would need to find a, oh hell, it actually kind of seems strange why they use an actual light bulb. Everything's switching over to LEDs nowadays, but you could extend your soldering time in this. There's that screw bayonet base. Replace that with an LED bulb. Yeah, why use a, I'm trying to see what it's got a number on it. 222. So it's a 222 bulb. But yeah, they should, hell, I could slap an LED and a resistor in there. Oh, come on, little thing. And make sure we're still working. Light bulb still works. I'll get hot here and see if... Still working. So, yep. Pretty make it simple, stupid, and that's what they did. Works well. So that ends good. Now let's see what we got in this critter. Like I say, it just looks like 2 little bent over tabs down in there. Actually got a Senesis sticker on the bottom. Just some little foam strips. This almost seems like a piece of fishboard. It's not cardboard. It actually looks like fishboard, like that insulation board that I use when I need a rigid insulation board in something. That's actually what that looks like. back in the day they called it fishboard. I think it was made, if I remember right, I think actually back in the old days, and it may still be, I don't know. It was made out of fish scales. So, oh, you've got to be kidding me. That's it? I can't believe this. Oh my God, really? That's almost scary. Well, that explains why when I checked this thing this morning it was warm. That's the charging circuit. A transformer. That's it. Boop. 120 volts in, however many volts out. Actually, let me switch the voltmeter over to AC. Just want to see what they're charging this thing with. I don't know why they put a positive and negative on here. It's going to be AC coming out of here. Unless they've got a diode inside the wrap here, which I doubt. But I'm going to assume this actually isn't positive and negative. It's probably just AC. Oh, now the cord's not long enough to reach my plug. Let's plug this in and see how many volts are coming out of that critter. No. I stand corrected. I'm not measuring, well actually I'm measuring a little bit of AC ripple, I guess. Like 29 millivolts. Switch over to DC. It's kind of strange. How in the hell? 1.78 volts. How in the hell you get... I'm kind of actually confused here. The camera swings down. 1.8 volts. Well, I think I just said that was what, if there's two 1.2 volt cells in there, it's 2.4 volts. Unless it starts to draw more. Actually, what I'm going to do is actually let me get another clip lead to tie on there. We'll take this sideways. Voltage is increasing. There's got to be something in that transformer other than just a transformer. Now there, you can see that's with the iron in the stand, and you can see the voltage is increasing. If I take it out of the stand, it's back down to 1.7 volts. I honestly don't know. I really did think when I first took the cover off of it. Let me unplug this. When I took the cover off of this, it looked like just a transformer. I'm going to say, man, that's crappy design. Just shoving AC into a... There's got to be a little circuit board in here then, or something. Actually, there is a lot of... From what I'm seeing in the windings here, there's something down in those windings. So yeah, there's got to be some sort of circuit built into this transformer. So it is not just a transformer. Yeah, that actually had me concerned there for a minute. I was like, damn, they're charging a NiCad battery just straight off of AC. You know, they threw a step-down transformer. But yeah, it actually appears they actually, I guess they had either make them themselves or get them custom made. But yeah, there's actually something in in the actual outer insulation wrap here of that. So there is actually some kind of charging circuit in there. But yeah, like I said, I was just kind of a little leery. Got that backwards. I was a little bit leery because, like I say, it was warm. Not hot. Not hot. I want to make that clear. It was not hot, but it was warm this morning. And I would have thought after about 12 hours of being plugged in, it should have reached its charge point and gone into a trickle charge. I may actually have to... I'm not going to tear that transformer apart, and I won't have a charging base. But I may see if I can find somebody selling just a charger base on, like, on eBay, get a used one. I actually want to tear one of those transformers apart. I want to see what the hell they got in there. Because apparently it's more than just copper wire and a steel core. Because AC goes in one side and DC coming out the other. Well, DC does not come out of transformers. AC comes out of transformers. So they've got something hidden within the insulation wrap of that transformer. But there you go. So there's my review of the IsoTip 7700 model, like I say. I like it. I think that'll actually make a nice addition to the bench. I really thank Synesys for sending this to me. Thanks for watching my videos. Hey, I like freebies. So there you go. Now, actually, if you guys at Synesys are watching, a few recommendations for you. Anything can always be improved. Even the greatest things in the world, you can always make improvements to stuff. So here are my thoughts for improvements. Nickel metal hydride battery, honestly, I think would be better. It's going to cost more, don't get me wrong. You can, or maybe come out with options. Or maybe, actually, that might be, let me grab your, no, actually that said NiCad too, though. Yeah, because that does say NiCad down there. Yeah, maybe you could have, like, maybe leave this one NiCad, but maybe, like, make your Power Pro, which is supposed to be the ultra-high capacity, make that a nickel metal hydride, or even better yet, honestly, lithium-ion batteries have really started to come down in price, as technology picks up, prices drop. Maybe even think of making a lithium-ion one. My God, can you imagine if you stuck, like, what are they, 3.4 volt lithium-ion, like what are they, 12240, hell, I have to go out over to my battery rack and pull one out, like 12240, whatever those size batteries are. Stick one of those lithium-ion cells in here. Man, this thing would just go forever. Ergonomics-wise, I think it's fine, just as it is. At least for my hand, worked just fine. Doesn't seem clunky, very nice not having a cord, of course. So yeah, there's not really a lot to change here, other than maybe come out with a better battery. Anything I've ever had that had NiCad batteries in it, I've actually replaced them. And put nickel metal hydrides in if I could, and better yet if I can, lithium ions. I always have to, convert battery chargers over. But now, the charging stand, maybe make a stand. I like the stand, simple, basic, definitely. Had some wasted space here, so made the little divot to make a, kind of a little tray. But something you might consider doing, and actually you could even make it as a separate piece to this, like a little add-on. You buy your soldering iron kit. You get the iron, 2 tips, the charging base. An accessory you might think of selling, or you could redesign the base, do it either way. But put some built-in storage on here. You could have one that either just slips over the top, so just have something with a hole in the middle, or basically that sits down and locks into this top here. But just with, like, down one side or the other, or maybe even both sides, just have a flange that sticks out that you can stick a bunch of these tips. Because you do have a bunch of tips available. So, why not have somewhere to store them? Because, like me, I'm going to buy a bunch of these tips, a bunch of these different ones. Well, I'm not going to have anywhere here to store them. I like with my pace equipment, I've got the stands. Actually, this is actually the insert out of one of the soldering iron stands. I have a bunch of these little ready racks. But, I'd need somewhere to store all my tips, keep them organized. So if I do want to change tips, I can just, like I say, that's just a thought. You might think of putting some storage here. LED light, actually, I think I read somewhere, I don't know where that was. Could have been online, because actually I looked at all of these irons online. I think maybe it's this one. Maybe that's a light. I see a little spot right there. But I thought one of these, I'm thinking it's this one, has a charge light. So this handle probably has something more. Actually, there's a switch also on the side of it from the looks of it. So yeah, to see what would be inside of this one. But yeah, like a charge LED. Like I said, I'm not going to say I'm worried, but yeah, this thing got warm. It stands warm, so it apparently never turned off and went into trickle charge mode. Almost what I need to do is pop the, just for my curiosity, I'm going to pop the back off of this probably, drop it in the charger. Well, I'll let it fully charge, and I'll take it apart, plop it in the charger stand, let it sit there for another hour or two. So I've actually just let it like plugged in for like 12 hours, and hook up a voltmeter and see exactly what kind of voltage is it. Is it actually overcharging the battery? Because yeah, I can't think of any other reason why it would be warm. Why it would continue to stay hot after it's reached full charge. That's usually what's happening, is something's being overcharged. Now, it clearly states in the manual there, never overcharges. Actually, instructions, not that one. Yeah. It will never overcharge. You can, big bold letters, leave your ISO tip in its charging stand all the time when not in use. It will never overcharge. Then again, you guys have been making this thing for what, like 30 years? So, quite honestly, maybe the battery settles in after it's been used a couple times, once it gets a couple charge cycles, and they're fine. But, yeah, like I say, I mean, it's not like this is a new product. You guys, if anybody's familiar, I've seen these around, and I think I may have actually owned one or two of these over the years. I got them in box lots at auctions, old radio TV repair shops that have gone out of business. I go and buy truckloads of equipment and tools and parts, and I think I've actually over the years had one or two of these things. I never used them because they were, they were sitting in a shop that had been closed for 10 or 15 years, so the batteries were just dead, could not be recharged. And, yeah, I just pulled the battery out for recycling and threw the things away, because I always thought, rechargeable, it's not going to solder really well. But, yeah, so I like it. Would I recommend this? Yes. I think that's a great little, and actually that's their lowest line, the 7700. They got two upgrade models from this. So, thumbs up to IsoTip, and thanks for the free soldering iron. So I thought, since I had not edited this video together yet, and for me it can be weeks to months from the time I shoot a video to the time I get it uploaded. And it's been several weeks since I received this, and actually have been using it on the bench. So yeah, I don't keep it in the charger base all the time. What I do, I just have this setting off to the side here. But I've actually found it really handy. Don't need to turn on the big gigantic soldering, or actually multi-process machine soldering station I have here. Occasionally, if I just need to tack some wires together, or I'm changing one component or something, I've been finding myself grabbing this little critter more and more and more. And honestly, it works great. I was actually pleasantly surprised. I mean, I thought I would be sorely disappointed with the cordless soldering iron, but I got to give this a double thumbs up, man. The little guy actually, it does the business. Now, I have found that you do need to be careful when you're soldering, especially if you're working on really, really cheap boards. Like the board I used actually in the demonstration for this video. A board like that, if you leave this tip touching it too long, trust me, you're going to burn the copper trace right off the board, because it does get hot. It gets really hot. So, but actually, even you can use it on boards like that. You just need to do, we can actually tell you in the manual, you kind of like pulse the button. It's kind of like a self-regulating, because remember, this is not temperature controlled. There's only 2 wires going to it, to a heating element, so it's like any cheap soldering, a normal, plug-in-the-wall soldering iron. There's no temperature control. It just gets to its maximum temperature, and that's just what it is what it is. But with this, since it does have a power button, you can turn it on and pulse it. So once you get the tip hot, you can just every once in a while hit the button, to keep a little bit of temperature there. So you can kind of self-regulate yourself, but for quality boards, you don't even need to do that, which most of the stuff I work on has at least halfway decent boards in it. So, yeah, the little guy, I got to say, I was surprised. I didn't think I would like it at first. It just, cordless, when I think of cordless stuff like this, it's kind of like any other tool. You think cordless circular saws. I have DeWalt cordless circular saws. Had one for years. Shoot, I've had that for over 10 years probably. Probably getting close to 15. And it works, but 9 times out of 10 I need to cut something. I'm doing a construction type project. I go for the corded tool. It just has so much more power. It's so much more efficient. Yeah, this little guy, like I say, hey, then again, there's not much to a soldering iron. It's a hot end. There's not a lot to it. So, yeah, I just thought I'd tack that on. So, in use for several weeks, pleasantly surprised. It really works really well. I've found the more that I use it, the more that I like it, and the more that I find myself using it. More and more I reach for this instead of reaching over for when I'm recapping a radio or something like that. Yes, of course I'm going to use the corded soldering iron. If I'm doing surface mount components, of course I'm going to be using a corded soldering iron. It has very precise temperature control, like something like this. But for just general use, simple little soldering projects, like I say, and a lot of times when you're working on radios, that's what you're doing a lot of the time, is just simple little soldering jobs. Man, this little guy is working great. So there you go, just a quick add-on to the video.